We are live. Good to see you today, my EOS podcast friends. I have an exciting show for you today. I have Sebastiaan from WordProof.io, which is an open source WordPress plugin that'll let people timestamp their content. So basically, we're putting a layer of integrity on top of WordPress sites, which is crazy. And WordPress, I think, has 75 million users. So we are going to talk about what WordProof.io is. We're going to talk about EOS, of course. And so Sebastiaan, welcome to the show. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Brandon, thank you for the introduction. My name is Sebastiaan van der Lans. I founded the WordPress agency, or I founded the web agency with my co-founder Robert in 2006, October 2006, so in April. We exist 12 and a half years. And for more than 11 years, we work with the software WordPress. We do that now with a team of 25 from the city center of Amsterdam, which I'm not there yet, or I'm not there at the moment. The background is Curaçao. Once a year, I travel with my business partner, Robert, to inspiring place to strategize the coming years. So that's the background, Curaçao, the sea. It's 27 degrees Celsius. That's more than the double of the temperature in Amsterdam. And we make WordPress websites. We serve about 500 million page views on a yearly basis for the publishers, charity, and a lot of small and mid-sized enterprises. Did the first blockchain project in 2013. Was a hobby for me since then, and since the start of this year, I work full time on WordProof, while my co-founder is running the WordPress agency with a team there.
That's killer. Well, I had a chance to talk to you a little bit before the show, and this is so exciting because of the open source community, how deep into the WordPress community you are and how big that is, and then the opportunity for reach in EOS, like almost instantly when you launch this. So really cool. I'm excited to dig in to all that. The first question, as you know, for the show is what generally in EOS is most exciting to you right now?
At this moment, I would say I'm an open source nerd. And what I see when developing open source, we made an open source plugin. It's called the WordPress GDPR compliance plugin. And it makes WordPress sites technically GDPR compliant. I did that last year, and we had to fund it ourselves as a company. About 60K is what we invested to make that plugin. And sorry for the long introduction in the answer. What we see is we can do that because we have a profitable company, but we had to work 12 years before we can make a plugin like that. Now on Telos, you have a very pragmatic implementation of the worker proposal system, and WordProof will probably be funded by the worker proposal there, which makes it one of the first worker proposals passing, maybe on the 7th of April. So I think to me, worker proposals passing on a small scale, that's for me the most exciting thing on EOS at the moment, on EOS.io, because it makes the development of open source software available not only to the privileged one who have the profit to invest, but to everyone. And to me, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, this thought of open source is the idea, everyone can come in and help and everyone can be a part of it. But really there's the barrier to entry you're talking about where, you can come in and be a part of it and develop a WordPress plugin, but you also need $60,000. So, so it's not quite as just open to just everyone as it seems. So that's a cool point for sure.
And on the way, I can make WordProof, or the timestamping part, I can hack it in a few days and we have a first version, but make a version that's foolproof, which is user-friendly. It takes a lot of time to make software which is backwards compatible with the older versions of WordPress. Make foolproof software is a hell of a job. So it's fun, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, that is really exciting for me too. I as you know, and the people listen to this know, I'm a big advocate of sister chains, side chains, all these experiments on EOS. And you know that Dan's kind of grand vision since the beginning, what he says is thousands of side chains, thousands of sister chains, all competing in an open market and improving the ecosystem. If any chain wins, we all win. So I'm a huge advocate of Telos, and I'm super excited to see how the worker proposal system, how it pans out and how it ends up working. Like already we're seeing a project like yours hopefully being funded. So anything that pushes the system forward, I think is great. Every experiment is fantastic. So that's exciting.
Especially in the way that open source production or the production of open source code can be really inclusive. Everybody can apply to it and say, hey, I want to make this, I want to make that. It takes me 6 months. I need $1,000 a month translated to token. And we as a community give you the trust to develop it. When you don't live up our expectation after 1 month, we can stop the funding. It's so small, it's so simple, it's so pragmatic. I really love how this can work out and how this will make development inclusive the coming years.
Yeah, and you have a really unique standpoint, since you've been in the open source community for so long, and seeing that even though it's open source, there's this barrier to entry, and the worker proposal systems will give make that more what people think of when they think of open source. I think it's just open to anyone who wants to come in and build. And the worker proposal system kind of is a step towards that. So really, really cool, really cool. So Go well. So I'd like to hear about some of your background in WordPress, because you've been doing it for 11 years. And so I'm interested in that community and what that community looks like.
WordPress community. WordPress is one of the founders is Matt Mullenweg. He's the visionary behind the software. And he's I'm not sure, I don't know yet if he's too much into blockchain. But he's really into the decentralization. For example, the company Automatic, they have people working around the world, everywhere. And in San Francisco, it's just a small percentage where their headquarters is, or at least the last time I checked it. And his vision is you only have access to the best talent in the world if you let them work on a place where they want to live. So decentralization is really baked into WordPress. The WordPress community, they have WordCamps. That's the biggest. You have WordPress meetups. They're small local things. And you have WordCamps. They are the bigger events. We have WordCamp the Netherlands since 2012, I guess. And I'm not exactly sure on the numbers, but since 2014, I'm part of the team organizing it. Fundraising. I did communication. So I'm active member of the WordPress community. Didn't organize the last WordCamps, but there's a lot of, sometimes we have WordPress Netherlands, then we have city-based. So now we have 3 WordCamps in the Netherlands, Rotterdam, Nijmegen we have, and Utrecht. So it will be the Netherlands, because it's hard to get enough visitors when we have it that distributed. But I'm really active part of the community. I spoke at a lot of WordCamps, more than half of them. And I will speak on about WordProof and WordPress blockchain. The talk will be called From WordPress to Blockchain. The future will be 100% open source. I will do the talk in Rotterdam next week or 1.5 weeks. And you have 2 really big WordCamps. Number 1 is WordCamp. I guess it's called WordCamp US now. It was San Francisco was one of the biggest, and then we have. I think it's the biggest in Europe. It's called WordCamp Europe, and it rotates in the big cities. So, that will be in Berlin, and there I will do one of the keynotes about the WordPress and blockchain.
Yeah, it's killer. I mean, it reminds me of it's like a bigger, more mature version of the EOS communities. All these little decentralized communities all over the place, having meetups, hackathons, giving talks, educating people. It's very cool that you came from that over to this. Let's let people know exactly what WordProof is. Let's kind of get into that, because that's what people are here for.
Yeah, or maybe one thing about the WordPress community, what they do is the organization of the WordPress or the WordCamps, it's really decentralized as well. The organizers are always a local group, and things, for example, in the Netherlands, it's quite easy to fund it, but in other countries, it's not that possible. So through the WordPress Foundation, if we have too much budget, we give it back, and it funds the events on the other side of the world. So to make it really inclusive, tickets for the WordPress, tickets for the WordCamp event, I think we pay $60 for 3 days in Berlin, for example, because none of the speakers got paid, and it's really inclusive. It's there's always a tech track, really technical, and always a beginner's track. So there's even after 11 years, it's really a good opportunity to onboard new people. Yeah, and do you see a lot of is there a lot of blockchain activity going on within the WordPress community, or are they kind of blind to it, or they just haven't seen it yet, or what's that look like? They haven't seen it yet. There is one plugin, it's called WordPress Blockchain, but they work with, I don't know the guys behind, they work with a middle layer solution, and it's based on Bitcoin. I think the idea of middleware or middle layer, that's not the open source thing we want to work towards. They have kind of a freemium model, so you can try it for free and then you pay to get it quicker. And so there is some movement, but we need to wake up. We need to, there's a lot of work to do. It seems like that community is a really ripe community as far as introducing something usable and so practical like WordProof is. I mean, it seems like they'll eat it up when they start seeing it. There should be a lot of crossover. I think so. And I hope people are open to adopt it, but I know blockchain will be the future. So if somebody is able to understand the idea of open source and doing more with it than just publishing, then it should be the WordPress community. They understand, they feel open source already. So, And you've created plugins in the past that have had 100,000 users, I think, right? So it happened. You have the GDPR law, the change since May last year. So 2 years ago, my team came with the idea to make a generic WordPress GDPR plugin. It's WordPress GDPR compliance. We published it, and after 2 or 3 weeks, it had 10K downloads. And so we said, we have to make it better. Let's put some resources on it, 2 people full-time in the first time. And we ended up having 700K downloads and 100K active users. The 700K downloads is because every time we do an upgrade or we update the plugin, it will count as a second time. So it's not it's not people boarding off, but it's people updating your plugin. So 100K active users. And we started with the idea, we had a customer, we have to be GDPR appliant every Tell customer. People what GDPR is, just in case people don't know. It's the protection of the privacy of inhabitants of the European Union, in a way. It gives, in a way, it shifts the responsibility from protecting privacy from someone living there to the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs have to make it possible for a consumer to erase their own data, for example. And you can't just collect data from the consumers. That's not allowed anymore. Cool. We made a tool set to make it easy for WordPress website and webshop owners to be more GDPR compliant on a technical level. Cool. Great. So our idea was, because it's a law, our customers didn't want to pay for GDPR to be GDPR compliant, and that was the consensus on the market. Hey, we have to make, we have to invest a lot to just be compliant. So that's not in going forward, but to stay compliant. So that's where we thought, okay, if we invest in a plugin like this, that will make us, make us friendly. And it took off, and directly it costed us a lot of money, but indirectly there are 2 benefits. Number one, our customers, when they ask, hey, what do you do with GDPR? Oh, we have a plugin with 100K users. It's great in sales. And number 2, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, it's hard to find programmers. But we have to prove that if you work at our company, you can work on projects which run on this amount of websites. So it's really good for the resume to work with our company. So that are two indirect benefits of investing in a plugin like that.
Cool. So has that helped you build your team at WordProof? We're giving you
in a way, it's too early to say yes, but I think so. Mm-hmm. And it feels good to give to the open source community. So yeah, it's in our culture to give. I invested hundreds of years in the open source community. I do that for years now. So it is in our DNA to give to the community.
Yeah. I mean, the crossover between you working at WordPress and then coming into EOS seems so seamless. It's cool to hear how that all fits together. So what is WordPress or WordProof.io in simple terms?
Yeah. It's timestamping on the blockchain. So every content you publish, or if you do a revision, if you update it, it will be hashed and timestamped in the blockchain on your EOS or Telos or Worbly account.
That's great.
That's the most simple version. And I got my inspiration in 2007 or 2017. Brandon Blumer had it in his presentation about how to fund companies in the blockchain era. And he said, in 5 years from now, if you don't timestamp your content in blockchain, you'll be considered a fraud. And he said, or a revisionist. And one of the most simple examples, not by him, but one example is, for example, the privacy policy. There's a lot of, it's easy when the terms and conditions and the privacy policy, hey, if I have a conflict with someone, I can change my terms and conditions to that. Hey, I changed it last time in 2013. That's often the first sentence in a terms and condition or privacy policy. Last changed 5 years ago. But it happens a lot that it's changed or that there's some fraud with that document because it's really easy to do. And with WordProof, you can prove the integrity of the document or the integrity of the content.
Yeah, that's one you wouldn't think of, but yeah, it's such a ubiquitous thing too, the privacy policy and everyone. So it's just people don't read it, pay attention to it at all. So that's a place that could be really easy for some fraud. I can see that. Where else?
That's one of the use case. Another use case, for example, can be prices on web shops. In the Netherlands, there's a lot of stuff with, for example, when you go to a shop on the next day, they have, or on Thursday, you pay $13 for a headphone, and on Saturday, you pay the double amount. Now you can prove that your prices are fixed, for example, if that's one of your promises. Okay.
It seems like this is one of those things where people start having come up with a lot of use cases for it as they start to use it. You can timestamp articles, I'm guessing, and photos. And is that a way for people to prove that content belongs to them, as say like for media and things like that also?
Yeah, or you can, for example, in journalism, you can publish the revisions as well, or you can make them accessible and show that they really exist on a proven time, for example, or you can prove that you were the first talking about it.
Okay, yeah, that's a cool idea. I wonder if it's for people or maybe even like politicians who are saying things or their quotes are being published, it may be a good way to kind of go back and have a history of what they said or what their views are.
Exactly, it can be dangerous as well because sometimes there is a lot of revisions on content. So it's not a way of thinking. Everything you publish, you can't erase it anymore. So and the first step will be timestamping, but directly after that we will do publishing content on the blockchain as well. And then you can not only prove that the original content was the right one and was published on a specific day, but you can also watch back in the blockchain what the content was at that moment.
Oh, wow. Okay. So are you guys people host that on their own websites, or how does that end up working?
Yeah. The The first version, it's directly the communication between WordPress instance and the blockchain. There's no middle layer. It's directly the user and the EOS.io or the Telos blockchain.
Ah, very cool. Okay. So how far along are you in the project right now?
I have the keynote on the biggest WordPress event in June 22nd in Berlin, and we need to have a first version there because it's a great opportunity to talk to people and to let them feel what it is to work with blockchain. We want people to be able to install it and timestamp content.
And how's the UX going to look for that? Is that are people going to have to interact with the blockchain, or is it going to be a hidden layer, or what's that look like?
Shall I do a screen share? I can show you some screens.
Yeah, do a screen share, and then keep in mind as well, it's a podcast, so it's people that are just listening, so kind of keep talking through it as you go.
Yeah, perfect. I'll do that. Share the timestamp workflow. For the people on the podcast, I imagine a content management system. What is that? That's a way to publish content on the internet. For example, a news item, the most simple example.
Mm-hmm.
Timestamp workflow, we go directly to what you see here is the WordPress back office. This is a way to publish content or update it. The blue button always comes with great responsibility. It's publish or update. Mm-hmm. And what you see here is a checkbox. You can check, hey, timestamp on Telos. In this case, we will launch with Telos, or timestamp on the EOS.io blockchain. So when we update or publish any type of content, the Scatter wallet, for example, or the SQRL wallet, or any wallet you have on the EOS.io will pop up and ask if you will sign your publication on the EOS.io blockchain.
Great.
So this is the most simple implementation.
Mm-hmm. That's fairly simple. So they'll need to have have Scatter or something installed to make this happen.
I'll show the next screen.
Okay.
So here, when I click on update or publish, the wallet pop-up will pop up. Mm-hmm. And then in the front end, in the message, you will see kind of an icon that will be customizable because we don't want to mess too much with the front end of the user. There's an icon to a certificate where you can see, hey, this content, and this certificate is here. That one is inspired by the other blockchain plugin that's there. Here you see the content, the title, and a link to EOS.io Block Explorer.
Oh, okay. That makes it easy. So someone can go just by pressing on that with a couple clicks, actually see it in a Block Explorer.
Exactly. And this is the most, and for example, you can see, hey, are there revisions as well? And they will be on you can see it here. You see openagency.io and then the slug of the post. And on this one, you see openagency.io, then the slug, and then /proof, or /certificate. And there you can see the meta information and integrity information. So that's the workflow of timestamping. I'll send you a link to the presentation, so maybe you can add it to the show notes.
Yep.
This is after you have installed and did the configuration on the plugin. And the catch is in the configuration of the plugin, because there are a lot of people using WordPress websites. By estimate, it's 75 million at the moment. And there are now not that much users of EOS.io yet. So the audience using both of them is small at the moment. But this plugin is really strong in onboarding. So if you have an EOS.io account, you can connect it right away. But if you don't have one, we let you create one from your known WordPress dashboard without leaving it.
Okay.
Screen. Here you have the settings of your WordProof plugin. You can say, hey, connect or create a free account.
Okay.
But the catch is here because, if you don't have it yet, in a few clicks, you should be able to create an EOS.io account, starting with Telos, because they have the fund for the free accounts at the moment.
Great. And so when they create a free account there, does it ask them to store their private keys, or will it store the keys for them?
at this moment, there are two options. Option number one is you store the keys only in your wallet on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, only safe option. Option number two could be to save the key in WordPress, but I don't dare doing that. I think that, no, we shouldn't do that.
Okay. Yeah, it's
maybe a key which is really limited, only able to publish timestamps on a specific account. But we will have a lot of discussions with people in the community before we try to do anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems that the private key is going to be important here, but it seems like also it's not as important if you're holding a lot of money or something in an account, because there's a lot of these. I think Scatter's doing an integration, or they're doing free accounts where they will take custody of your private keys for you temporarily until you get over a certain threshold of EOS, and then they force you to take control of your account. So yeah, there's kind of a trade-off there. Yeah.
But the thing is, I want to make generic tools, and I am not able to think of the use cases of other people. I hope people to be more creative than we are. So even if there's no money on their private key, the stakes can be so big. Mm-hmm. Even the White House used WordPress to do their website. Yeah. So Disney uses it. The biggest publishers use it. So the stakes can be really big, although there's no money on the account. Okay.
Well, that's a good point. So this is one of the bigger picture things with EOS is the account storage and the key storage and keeping people's private keys safe. And I think that they may have hopefully a new solution coming out from Block One. Possibly that's, if that's something that happens in June or even this year, there's a lot of projects out there that, just on the UX end, it's going to help so much once the private key, once it's somehow recoverable, it'll be, that'll solve problems for a lot of projects out there. So,
and what I hope to see, and that's, for example, as you said, sidechains, they are really important to push forward the technology, but the collaboration between open source projects, I think that's key. Normally, people tend to say creativity is what happens when you combine two strange things together, when you're able to combine. I think if we can combine, for example, the WordPress community, the EOS.io community, specifically the EOS community, the Telos community, if we work together, we can work towards a 100% open source future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the more people tinkering and experimenting, the better. So this is, a few good examples of this going on. So, you've got April 7th, you've got the worker proposal coming up, and then you've got the this big WordPress event. When's that? That's in June?
That's in June, and we have a local event in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, the 12th of April. So I will do the presentation in Dutch about what a WordPress agency would look like in 2030. Mm-hmm. That's what I do on the 12th of April.
Okay. What's the future? So you've got that coming up, and then what's the future? What's the roadmap look like, say 6 months to a year from now?
Yeah. Well, I hope, and I think we have the potential to make WordProof the interface between WordPress and any EOS.io blockchain. When we have that, there are a lot of steps we can do. I will send you a link to the worker proposal as well. We suggested some future things for the roadmap. One of them is we can do e-commerce, the checkouts. That can be one. We can do number 2, the consent of GDPR or cookie wall. You can give your consent from your own blockchain identity. That can be one. So we combine the GDPR plugin and the EOS.io interface we have. But a very exciting other one is publishing your content to the EOS.io blockchain. And from there, we can move on to a Steam-ish model, because when you publish your content as well to EOS.io chain, we can do a whole token economy around that. I'm not sure if it's a great idea to go that way with WordProof, because at least my vision is integrity should always be free. The opportunity to prove your integrity should be available for everyone. That's why this project needs a worker proposal or something like that, because there's no ambition at all to have a business model. There shouldn't be a business model, because when there's a business model, it's not inclusive. Then integrity is for the elite, and that's exactly the opposite of what we want. So that can be a separate project. But on short term, WordProof should be the interface between WordPress and EOS.io for timestamping. And number two, login. The second thing you can do is use your EOS.io account as two-factor authentication to make sure that you are the one who publishes it, because that makes a lot of sense to do. But right after that, we will start with publishing content to the blockchain as well. And from there we'll see what happens.
What do you see? Is there a way to publish video to a blockchain? I mean, do you have any ideas for that in the future? I know there's a lot of companies working on that.
Yeah, videos or image. There's not a consensus on what's the best way to do it in EOS.io yet. So Telos, from my mind, does an implementation on how the Block 1 white paper describes it, but you have the liquid apps, they work with another system. If we implement one of two of that options right now, we have to choose which one of them. So we shouldn't go too fast with that, because we want to implement the best practices.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
but,
that's.
Or sorry, in my vision, I did a presentation on WordPress 10 years ago, and the first slogan of WordPress was just another blog.
Really?
So it started as blogging software. My presentation 10 years ago was, maybe it's 9 years ago, but doesn't matter. My presentation was called WordPress, just another interface. And my idea there was that if you like, for example, social media, if you like Facebook, you can use Facebook as an interface for everything you do. If you like WordPress, WordPress had this huge adoption because of user friendliness. They were the first with what you see is what you get editor years ago. WordPress could be the interface for everything. So I made a picture of an electric car with WordPress as a dashboard to steer the car. And now we will move to an era where the interface it can be totally disconnected from the way where you publish the data, or first where it's stored and second where it's read. For example, Steam, all the content is in the blockchain. But if you can use WordPress, the dashboard, to publish to, for example, a WordPress sidechain on the EOS.io, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah, it does. Wow, that's a cool thought. That's a cool thought. You guys have a lot going, a lot to grow into there. I mean, WordPress is so dynamic. Yeah.
The thing is, I decided to publish about WordProof directly after we thought of it. And a lot of members from the community, they started reaching out to me. For example, Roman from Crypto Alliance.
Oh, yeah.
We went on a call and he said, what if we publish WordPress directly to the blockchain? So that's the fun and that's the good thing of open source. Brock Pierce said, we moved from a world where it's all about me to a world where it's all about me. And it's not only about the product, it's also about the process. We share directly. In a way, I risk that someone builds WordProof before June and uses the name, but I don't think that will happen. And if it happens, the solution should be there, and I want to be part of it. So working open source adds a lot of value to projects.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You've been in the open source world for so long too. What do you think? I mean, so in open source, we had kind of this vision of open source when the internet first came out, and then it kind of got co-opted by some of the big corporations that came in. What do you think this time around, kind of with the open source picture, and then kind of the battle with that, and then corporations that are going to want to slow that down or just make money off of it?
there are always corporate structures trying to avoid that it's going to be totally open. This time, I'm pretty sure it will be harder because it's so distributed, and the intention here is to make communities bigger than corporates. And when the internet started, there was not a group of anarchists. In a way there was, but now the movement is bigger. We know we have internet around for 25 years. It gave us perfect organization of everything we have, and it gives us user friendliness on almost everything. But we have some downsides as well. We have the clickbaiting, fake news. We have the non-inclusive in finance. We have a lot of downsides at the moment, and a lot of people are committed to solve a lot of those issues. So I think the movement against the corporate structures, and I'm not totally against corporate structures, but there should be a good balance. The movement is big and it's so distributed at this moment. And it's in every industry, there are people working on some things. And when we're open to collaboration, working together, then the movement can be really big. And I trust it.
Yeah, that's really, really exciting times with everyone working on this together. It does feel like there's a lot of momentum as far as the all these projects that are coming together, especially on EOS and WordPress. Just the level of community involvement and how many projects are going on is mind blowing. It's really cool, really cool.
Yeah, it's mind blowing, and every day I try to keep up. I watch your show. I watch everything EOS, you, and they do a great job in making it consumable, everything that's going around. And that's what I say in the pre-talk together. What you do on interviewing everyone, it's great that in 10 years from now, if we can look back at this moment and watch your podcast or your show, it's so great that you document everything that's happening now in the industry. That's keep up that good work, man.
Well, cool. Sorry, thank you. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, that's cool. I love I do this because I love it. It's so interesting, and just I get to learn from smart people all the time. It's my way to keep up on everything that's going on. Because like you said, it's just like, it's just kind of outrageous how much is actually happening on a daily basis. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
And also, the coming years from now, we won't have a full blockchain society in 5 years. It will take at least 10 years. And the road will be bumpy, but we will get there step by step. It's what happened in WordPress. WordPress is the engine behind 33% of the web. Wow. At this moment, and it's still growing around 1% a year. And so there is no commercial content management solution that's coming close. The number 2 is also the number 2 content management system in the world. It's also open source, and it does less than 10% of the websites. So on the content management area, open source totally dominates the market.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, and that's like for people to take note, this plugin being part of WordPress is huge. I mean, the exposure there, just maybe not everyone will start using blockchain off the rip, but just starting ripples in the WordPress community is just so big for EOS in general.
People will come up with more creative ideas to use the plugin. And especially when we start, for example, with the EOS DNS system coming up now, with where the Cyberglass guys are working on. If you can use WordPress as an interface to publish to the blockchain and use your EOS DNS to visit that content, you don't need any web hosting, you don't need the old DNS. So we can rebuild the internet. And WordPress, they invest a lot in their editor. You had WordPress 5 since a few months. They have the Gutenberg editor. That's a good work from the press, the guy. And their ambition is to make the best publish interface in the world. So what's happening in the open source community at the moment, Drupal, for example, is another big open source CMS. The Gutenberg interface is being ported to Drupal, for example. So the WordPress editor is being used on other CMSs as well. So WordPress will have 33% of the market and counting, but the editor will have a way bigger reach than just the 33%.
Wow, that's huge. Can you dive in a little bit deeper with the Cypherglass working on the DNS and kind of how that fits together with the publishing straight to the blockchain and how that changes the internet?
Yeah, what I can imagine is, for example, with liquid dApps or the Telos IPFS thing. No, where should I start? For example, when you have a WordPress website, normally a page will be generated every time a user requests it. For small sites, that is okay. But for bigger sites, you have to, for example, we do one of the biggest television show. We worked on their website for years. And when they do a promotion, a show, hey, leave your information and you can win a bicycle, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And 5,000 people go to that website in less than 15 seconds. Then you have to do a lot of caching to make sure that it still works. The best way to cache kind of a static website is just to produce the HTML and put it somewhere. So then you lose the interaction, but it can be lightning fast and it can handle as much traffic as needed. When you use WordPress and the output, the beautifully made output, the website, you can put it on normal web hosting, but you can also publish it, via, for example, the Liquid Apps network or via IPFS. It can be stored in a blockchain, and the EOS DNS, they can be the interface to it. We can run websites totally from the blockchain. Actually, as Steam does it right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that is fantastic. I mean, that's a cool vision to think down the road of how, and just how everything is going to change in that realm is amazing. And
for example, we can, a next step therein, the comments under a blog post or under an article, they can go directly to SenseChat. It can integrate with everything.
Mm-hmm.
So every article, for example, can have a separate group on SenseChat, which is public. The sky's the limit. Everything can integrate with everything. That's the fun on open source, where everybody can download WordPress, adjust WordPress, republish WordPress. That's the loss of open source.
It's a beautiful time. It's a beautiful time. I haven't used SenseChat yet. Have you tried it, or are you familiar with it?
Not yet.
I got to get on there and try that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, shout out to SenseChat, because that's a killer project. I think actually I have Benny. I have Benny from Liquid Apps, and I have Ben Sigmund, both scheduled to come on the show. So that's so cool. This big open source community we're talking about, and I've got them coming up soon. So I'll dig in with them about it. So
I'm in touch with Chris Dove at Vec.ai. He's living in Amsterdam at the moment. I met him 2 months ago, and we talked to each other the day after I arrived back in Amsterdam. They will be one of the producers on Liquid Apps. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell them. Sorry, Chris, if it's not. But I'm sure it is fine. So we will discuss what we can do and how we can try things together. I'm pretty sure we can learn a lot from each other. Chris, it's amazing how he runs his company so open as well. For example, one of the first EOS meetups in Amsterdam, they were the hosts. They didn't organize it, but they say, come to our office, we have space enough. And they have a lot of talented developers. It's great how he recruited his team last year.
Yeah, we had them on the show a couple weeks ago, or maybe just a week ago. But yeah, what a cool guy. What a big vision, all kinds of interesting things going on with Effect.ai also. So
opening up.
I know, it's great. So we've kind of covered what WordProof.io is, where you're at, where you're going. Is there anything you want to go back and touch on or talk a little bit more about for as far as the project goes?
Yeah, let's check for the project. I had some notes here. I had another, because I was sure that you will ask me what's most exciting about EOS at the moment.
Yeah.
What excites me the most on blockchain is that everything that we as a human need to work on that we don't like, we will solve it with gamification or incentives. And that's what blockchain will, it will make everything that we don't like likable or profitable with the layer of gamification or the layer of incentives. And we are so proud to bring that to the WordPress community and see what's going to happen there. And it starts with really, WordProof, the idea is big, but we start with a small tool. Worker proposals, the idea is big, but Telos made it really small and pragmatic. And the sky is the limit, but we can start small, and that's what's happening in the EOS community, EOS.io community, Telos community, WordPress community. So let's connect the dots together. That's the closing remark on WordProof.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard that before, that we're going to gamify and incentivize all the things that we don't like as humans. So that's a really killer take. And that's very true. That's one of my favorite things about blockchain as well, is just these aligning incentives so that things make sense, and where you're adding value, you're getting compensated for it. So like, things that you might not like, well, at least you're, extracting value out where you should be, so very cool.
I'm writing an article at the moment, and it's called about the WordPress agency, or it's about the WordPress agency in 2030. There are a lot of WordPress agencies around the world. And I was thinking, hey, how can we tokenize an old school service business? And then I came up with a simple model. I hope one of your listeners will adopt this for his or her agency. What if every time, the idea was, will be a long story, but
no problem.
When a customer calls my agency and they're not able to reach their account manager, in a way, the customer doesn't like that. What on earth is more important than my call? Mm-hmm. But then I thought, okay, how can we solve that? If I hire one extra account manager, then I have more overhead. So every hour I sell will be more expensive. So that's not a solution as well. And then I thought, okay, how can we reinvent the old school service business in a way, in a way that the incentives are fully aligned. The article will be called the All Aligned Agency, the AAA agency. And for every hour sold, a customer gets one agency token. So for example, when I buy a project for 100 hours, I get 100 agency tokens. For example, 100 hours will be sold for $100 an hour, 10K in total. And then the people working on the project, they will share pro rata the amount of tokens as well. So 100 agency tokens for the customer, 100 agency tokens for the people working on the project. In a way, they have an incentive to deliver it as quick as possible, so they get more tokens for the hours worked. And on the end of the year, the profit of the company will be shared through the token holders. And that will align a lot of that will align the incentive, because the people in the team, they if they deliver on time, they will that's good for the profit, but for the customer as well. When he calls the agency and says, hey, I want to talk, and they're not able to reach their account manager, it means that we are working on something else, which makes the profit of the company bigger, which will result in kind of a fee for me when I'm not reaching my account manager. So in a way, it benefits me in a financial way that I'm not able to reach my account manager. And even more, it incentivizes me as a customer of an agency to bring more business to the agency, because it gives me more tokens and a bigger profit share. And even further, it will it will give me an incentive for bringing in friends and their business to the agency, because it will make the profit bigger of the agency I work with. So even the old school model of service business can be reinvented with a token model. And it has downsides as well, but it's great to try, hey, how can we reinvent business like this?
So you're talking about basically taking a surface business and then giving the customer some sort of tokenized ownership with the business, so that even the customer has a vested interest in businesses they use succeeding. Is that kind of what you're saying? Exactly.
But the team, they get tokens as well.
Mm-hmm, and the team too.
For every hour sold, so for example, there's 100 for 100 hours sold, there's 100 tokens for the customers and 100 tokens for the people working on the project, which will be shared with who's working on it. And the profit or part of the profit can be shared to the token holders.
Very cool.
And I'm still working on the idea because what I think now is at the end of the year, after sharing the profit, we will reset it, burn all the tokens of that year and start a new year. Otherwise, it makes sense to buy a lot of tokens and just sit there waiting for the profits the coming years. So, but it's an experimental thought. So even in an old school, maybe boring service business, we can reinvent things.
That's really cool. Well, these big ideas start as thoughts like that. I was just listening to the coolest podcast the other day about this, but basically that these thoughts, you kind of put them in your head, and then over time as you experiment, you keep pulling little pieces and more pieces and more pieces. And so that thought 3 or 4 years down the road, all of a sudden you have all the pieces to actually make something like that happen. But it starts with the thought and the brainstorming consistently about things like that.
Exactly. And then
so cool.
At the conference, for example, I think on the WordCamp event in June, I have maybe 500 or 1,500 people listening. If I can, my aim there is to give a spark of inspiration. There's so many smart people there. So it will result in a lot of spin-off, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Put that idea out there to all those smart people and let them start pinging it around for the next year and see what happens. That's
Exactly.
great. That's great. Anything else that we glossed over with WordProof there?
No, I think, no. We've touched a lot of things. And I think, let's have a look at, or I want to inspire people to have a look at, for example, the WordPress community or other big open source communities, because we went through a lot of steps where the EOS.io community is going the next years. Where EOS.io is, 9 months old now? The WordPress community is more than 10 years old. Let's see what we can learn from each other. That's,
And were you involved with the WordPress community when it first started? I mean, or how?
It started because WordPress is more than 13 years old.
Okay.
But it started really small. When we started working with WordPress, it was not famous in the Netherlands as well. We started to do WordPress trainings 11 years ago, and I had competitors say to me, "What are you doing? You're destroying the market." So it was really, open source was not a normal way of thinking. I was 18 by then, though we were small kids, and we said, okay, website, it shouldn't cost 100K. We can do it for 5K, and let us allow us to show you WordPress. So that's how we started our company with the two of us. And from there we moved on, but WordPress wasn't popular by then. As EOS.io, in a way, it has the potential to reach billions of people. So it's so small now. And we have 800,000, maybe combined all the sidechains, we have 1 million accounts maybe. So it's so small. We're right on time.
Yeah. What do you see as far as when you were newer in WordPress, or when WordPress was newer, these small communities, how do you see them compared to the EOS communities right now? Are you seeing a lot of the same things or some differences, or?
Yes and no. For example, the EOS.io hackathons, they were so beautifully produced. Yeah, it was amazing, but WordPress didn't have that. And in a way, my opinion is, Block One, please go on and do more, make more of those events. But in a way, community events in a way are better because they're more intrinsic. WordPress always had the local meetups and the local WordCamps, the bigger meetups, and bottom up is really a good way. So I hope that a lot of EOS.io meetups will come and will professionalize. We don't have to, we shouldn't make Block One responsible for community building. We should take ownership of them.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that I consider how Block One thinks about these the community, because they don't want our community to lean on them for solutions. And like the scaling solutions, how Liquid Apps has stepped in and kind of come up with some ideas. The wallet, I think the wallet was more regulatory, but how they didn't come out with a wallet, they just let the community build it. It's almost like they want to, it's like making a little kid walk on his own or something, not carrying him all the time.
And in June, I can't wait what they come up with.
Yeah.
But in a way, it can make the community lazy as well, because Block One is making so much. Yeah, they shouldn't be it's almost like a drug dealer. They make addicted on their stuff. But the thing, if you watch at the blog producers, EOS New York, what they produce, and Graham has what they produce, their crypto lines, what they produce, all of them, sorry for the ones I forget. There's so much happening in the community, and there should be, not all the focus should go to the Block One work. I can't wait to see what they come up with, but we have to, what worked so well in the WordPress community is the events organized by the users itself.
Yep, absolutely. It's this grassroots is the part that really can't be stopped, and so that's
exactly. And and that's where in a way it's sad that the token price is quite low, because why do blog producers exist next to producing blogs? Is they should have the funds to add to the community on a way that shouldn't directly have a business model that works or that is right. So, for example, organizing WordPress meetups, organizing the WordCamps, there's not a real good business model, but it's so important that they're there. WordProof, for example, it shouldn't have a business model, but it should be there. Proof of integrity, it will be a human right in the coming years, and it can't exist with a business model. That will kill the idea. So when the token price is higher, it will be more easy for blog producers to organize events on a really high level. Or the worker proposal system, it can be a way to organize local meetups and not asking for $100,000 and organize it big. Start it small. For a few $1,000s, you can hire a room for 200 people and organize a local thing, onboarding new users, going depth in the technical stuff. It can start so small, and it should start small and distribute it around the globe.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned a few block producers there, and that's a good segue for me, because I've got a Proxy, Mr. Happy Money Proxy, and all those block producers you mentioned, I vote for. I am currently voting for. So, the block producers, there's some of them out there that are doing so much. Like Graymass is a great example that you mentioned that I'm a big fan of. And
they're so technical. They're so and there are local initiatives as well. For example, the guys of EOS Amsterdam, the guys of Dutch Telos, they do a lot of background stuff. And for example, they're working on EuropeChain now. It will be a chain, a sidechain, but totally GDPR compliant. And they're figuring out some things at the moment. But in Europe, there will be a big need for initiatives like that. So shout out to them as well.
Yeah. You mentioned something a couple of times. You mentioned that if it's open source, that that there can't be a business model if you want it to be open source. Can you dive into your kind of philosophy on that?
Yeah, there can be a business model, but for example, my company, for example, I have 25 people. We work with open source software, but there's a business model. We do consultancy, we do design, we do the technical stuff. We do a lot of back-end connections. That's a business model. With my co-founder, I wrote a book. It's called in Dutch the Handboek voor digitale slagkracht, the Handbook for Digital Transformation in SME, small mid enterprises. And we open source our processes there. It's in Dutch, sorry. But open source can have a business model, but some ideas can only work without a business model. For example, WordPress itself. For example, WordProof. You can't make the proof of integrity. If people have to pay to prove their integrity, that's error in my head. then it's not going to work. It should be inclusive. It should be accessible for everyone. The organization of meetups, for example, it costs money, and there's no direct profit for it. Someone in Sri Lanka, for example, poor country, for them, if they can work with a worker proposal and they get $100 to organize some events to teach people how to program on EOS.io, for them it makes a big difference, the microfinancing, but you won't get a return as an investor for that. Does that make my point?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to hear the thoughts behind that, and that makes sense. In that there's a lot of things that have to happen, need to happen within the ecosystem, but there's not really a way to. If you try to make money off them, then they're not going to happen. So exactly. Yeah, I definitely see that. Yeah.
And on the relation between EOS.io and Block One, or the software and the community and Block One, in WordPress you have the same. You have WordPress.org. That's the software you can download, install in your web hosting. And then you have WordPress.com. It's a software as a service solution. So I can make a free Sebastiaan.wordpress.com, and they will monetize it via advertising. Mm-hmm. Automatic is a billion-dollar company. It's they exploit WordPress.com. And you have the WordPress.org, that's the open source community. So even there is a commercial company as well. Automatic, they have full-time people working on the software, which they will open source, and they work on tools which are not open source. But there's you have WordPress.com and .org. There are two forces. But there was an interesting thing. Matt Mullenweg in 2017 said to, I guess it was Forbes, he said, for every dollar Automatic makes, the ecosystem WordPress makes 20 or 21. And he said, for every dollar Facebook makes, Facebook makes 99 cents. Uh-huh. So in open source, it can be good to have a centralized entity there. And in a way, I earn my money in a centralized way with having a WordPress agency, and I give back a lot to the community, but I'm able to do that because I have the centralized thing. So centralized and decentralized, they always need each other. But if you can put a balance and make a centralized company is not an ecosystem. There are two different things. In a way, it's an ecosystem with the culture and the people working there and the customers. But the relation between centralized companies and an ecosystem, open source ecosystem, that can be great. For example, he said, WordPress.co Automatic versus WordPress.org is $1 here, $21 there. He said when Microsoft started, they had the same balance. So you have in Microsoft Windows 95, they had the same. So for every dollar Microsoft made, the consultants and other software creators, they had the same 1 to 20, 1 to 21 balance. So he said that's kind of a ratio, rule of thumb for a balanced ecosystem.
Oh, interesting. And then down the road, obviously that shifted for Microsoft pretty drastically, right?
Probably, yeah.
So what do you see that balance looking like in EOS right now with Block One, and how's that look from your eyes?
The token sale they did, their money by law is profit. So at this moment, a lot of the profit went to Block One, but it's not fair to watch it from that point, I think.
A little early, maybe.
It's too early. Now a lot of went to Block One, but I'm so happy that they have it because it's a big advantage for the ecosystem that they have their war chest. We have to see how this unfolds. And the thing that we have the inflation, which funds the block producers, it changes the ecosystem as well. In a good way, I'm pretty sure in a good way, because it distributes a lot of money through the ecosystem. So, we have to watch how this will unfold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that should start to balance out over time, because there hasn't been a lot of projects that are turning income with EOS yet. And once it starts, there's more adoption thing. People start turning more income with EOS. That starts to shift, obviously. At this moment, everyone working in the industry invests. For example, my co-founder, Robert, I'm here with him. We talk a lot about everything, but he gave me the space to work on this for a few years. He trusts me in doing the right thing there. So
I'm really lucky that I have the time. And the same is for you. I think you don't earn a lot of money on the EOS ecosystem right now.
Right. Yeah.
But you invest and it will pay off. And maybe it pays off this year, maybe next year, maybe in 5 years, but it will. We trust on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot of people, this is the people who are here building and creating within EOS right now are doing it because they believe in it. There's not, we're not making money right now necessarily,
no.
but the future is so bright and it's such a cool thing to be a part of. It's just amazing.
And not to be a buzzkill, but I think in the big picture, it's wrong that only we, as the people who fight it to be financially free in a way, at this moment, only we are able to invest much in the ecosystem. So it's a great paradox. So we are searching for people who made themselves free to invest a lot of time and at the same time are able to do the right thing. But maybe they are free now because they always did the right thing. I don't know, but it's difficult. There's a strange paradox there.
That is, that's the one that what you're talking about earlier is it's open source, but it's open source, but you have to have that seed capital to start your open source project. So you had to already have been free to be a part of it type of thing. So
maybe one thing for as a closing remark, you have in the WordPress ecosystem, you have the most commercially successful plugin is the WordPress SEO. It does a lot of suggestions on how to optimize posts, and it's made by Yoast. It's a Dutch guy, and he worked for years on his in his garage or in his house, and he worked for years on it and doing support, and he had millions of users, and it took him years to make a business model around it. And now they have a team of, I think it's 100. They do support around the world. They made it a freemium thing, so good SEO is available to everyone in the world, and they made a solid business around it. They are the biggest sponsor of almost every WordCamp event in the world. So they give back a lot to the community. But to study, the company Yoast, Yoast, it's a great one to study in how to, they do a great thing in being a commercial, successfully company, also giving back in open source ecosystem.
Yeah, this has been a fantastic talk. I love all the crossovers between the WordPress ecosystem, WordProof, and EOS.io and Telos, and everything that's going on right now. It's just so killer. So April 7th is an important day because that's the Worker Proposal system on Telos. So if people want to support the project, how do they do that?
Yeah, if they own Telos, at the moment we have enough votes to pass the worker proposal. So my most important request is don't unvote them. But everyone holding Telos, they can, on chainspector.io, they can vote for worker proposal number 6 in favor of it or against it if they don't like the talk, but I hope they will do in favor. Or they can do it with a Squirrel wallet. One of the two options. They can vote towards the worker proposal number 6. And please have a look at the other worker proposals as well.
Cool. Well, we'll put links for that in the show notes so people can find them. And then links for your, where can people find you online, or what's your site? We
have a Telegram group, and it's called t.me/wordproof, just WordProof, WORDPROOF. And we have wordproof.io. And from there you can catch up and watch everything we do.
Fantastic. We'll put that in the show notes as well. On my end, my EOS podcast friends, I have a Proxy that's up and running, and I interview tons of blog producers, and I vote for blog producers that are transparent, empowering the community, and building together, because that's what I look for. So there is some really cool blog producers. I've interviewed almost all the blog producers that I vote for, and I've interviewed some blog producers that I don't vote for. So Mr. Happy Money Proxy, if you're looking for somewhere for your vote. And this is a podcast. It's not just a fun YouTube show. So if you're only watching YouTube, get the podcast, because then when you're sitting in traffic or supposed to be working, you can listen and learn about EOS. So thank you for coming on the show, Sebastiaan. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure was mine.
Yeah. Any final words for our EOS podcast listeners here?
No, let's ensure that we have a fully open source future. So many great things will happen in the coming years. So thank you, everyone listening, to being part of this community. And everybody can do something. We started with the WordProof ID a few months ago, and now we're building it. Everybody can be part of this industry. Please feel inclusive.
Great one to end on. Well, cheers, Sebastiaan, and cheers, my EOS podcast friends.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is